Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Stevie Middleton and I'm a BBC Commissioner for a load of sport podcasts. I'm lucky to do that at the BBC because I get to work with leading journalists, experienced pundits and the biggest sports stars. Together we bring you untold stories and fascinating insights straight from the players' mouths. But the best thing about doing this at the BBC is our unique access to the sporting world. What that means is that we can bring you podcasts that create a real connection to dedicated sports fans across the UK. So if you like this podcast, head over to BBC Sounds where you'll find plenty more.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, keeping you up to speed with everything you need to know about our national game. It's Thursday, the 9th of May. I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and coming up today...
We can win this, but it's about belief. That belief starts inside yourself, then it spreads through one another, but you must believe. People talk about underdogs, I'm telling you right now we're no underdogs.
We focus on East Kilbride and Stranraer ahead of their huge playoff match this weekend. Also...
And Macbeth! Oh, that's incredible from Luke Macbeth, who has stepped forward and pulled out an absolute stunner.
Who'll come out on top as deadlocked Partick Thistle and Airdrieonians clash once again. And...
McJudge goal! This is huge! Ross County are ahead! 88 minutes gone, Ross County 2, Hibs 1.
Can Ross County keep their noses ahead of St Johnstone in the fight for Premiership survival?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Joining us this morning, man of many clubs and even a brief dalliance with East Kilbride, Lee Miller, and the BBC Sport Scotland journalist and commentator Thomas Duncan. And Lee, first to you, if we avoid the old firm elephant in the room this weekend, what are you looking forward to most?
In terms of, it's exciting times for Scottish football. I think the playoffs are great. You look at the game with East Kilbride and Stranraer. It's an exciting one. East Kilbride have been champing at the bit, trying to get up into the football leagues, and they've got that opportunity now. But even the Championship into the Premiership, it's a live contest. It's a really lively contest. With Airdrie and Partick Thistle. So there's exciting games all over the country, and obviously you've got the whole firm. Probably going to take the headlines from that. But no, it's exciting times.
But this will be an old firm-free zone today, believe it or not. We will go in depth on that on Friday's podcast, and it will just dominate the weekend, obviously, and it'll be hugely exciting. But other than that, Thomas Duncan, what is getting you excited?
It's obviously watching Lee's boy Lennon play on Saturday. No, but genuinely, I think Ross County Motherwell is whetting the appetite. Massive game for Ross County in the battle to avoid that playoff spot. They're in really good form at home. They're scoring goals, and Motherwell are a team I love watching because they score a lot of goals and they concede a lot of goals. So they've played some thrillers this season. So genuinely, I think that's a game that will be worth watching, worth tuning into this weekend. We'll find out if Lee is making the long trip north to Dingwall very soon. Lots to get through, but first let's round up the latest Scottish football headlines. Lewis Ferguson may not play again this year as the Bologna captain recovers from knee surgery. I had surgery 3 weeks ago, Ferguson told BBC Scotland. It's been really difficult physically and mentally. I've never really had an injury before. I don't want to put a time on it, but it will be at least 6 or 7 months before I'm training again. Obviously, it means he will definitely miss Euro 2024. Kilmarnock boss Derek McInnes is anticipating offers for midfielder David Watson this summer. The 19-year-old, who won PFA Scotland's Young Player of the Year, has also been nominated for the Scottish Football Writers' Prize. He's been a key part of McInnes' team this season. Watson's the first non-Old Firm player to receive the PFA Young Player Prize since Andy Robertson in 2014. And Scotland and Spurs striker Martha Thomas will face her former club Manchester United in the Sunday Showpiece Women's FA Cup final at Wembley. She scored the 118th minute winner in the semi-final against Leicester City. Let's kick off with East Kilbride versus Stranraer. Now,
in case you need to be brought up to speed, East Kilbride have romped it in the Lowland League. Stranraer have done the exact opposite in League Two, and it is a fight for Stranraer's survival in the SPFL. East Kilbride champing at the bit to get into League Two. And Lee Miller, you did have a brief dalliance with East Kilbride in the twilight of your career. How ambitious a club and are East Kilbride, and what do you make of that? Who goes into that as favourites? Can you call it?
Yeah, I did dabble a brief spell in East Kilbride, and I know how ambitious the club is. The people behind the scenes have played a lot of money into it, and they've got the facilities there to bounce up into the football leagues. Mick Kennedy's done a great job there with Cy Ferry. They brought a lot of players in. They play some really attractive football, and they'll be confident getting into this game. And like you said, Stranraer have been struggling. Clyde had the great escape with Ian McCall and Mark Kerr at the helm, and they managed to avoid the playoffs. But it's one of them. It's one-off games, isn't it? Stranraer will be annoyed with themselves having been sucked into that playoff position. But it's an exciting game, I think, for a neutral to go to that game, and it's a lot of pressure on it, and it'll be interesting to see who conquers.
It is an interesting dynamic, Thomas Duncan, isn't it? Because we all remember Mick Kennedy's incredible pre-match speech ahead of Darvel's incredible victory against Aberdeen a little while ago. Can't even remember when it was, last year or the year before. Time is a bit of a blur these days.
Covered so much football, Johners, that's the problem.
That's the problem. The brain is addled, thank you. Yeah, but Mick Kennedy, assisted by Cy Ferry, and that's a dynamic in itself. It certainly seems to have got them going places right now. It's been a huge success story this season because, you know, they're so far ahead of the rest of the pack in the Lowland League.
Yeah, absolutely. They've kind of cruised to the title, 12 points ahead of Hearts B-side, who couldn't even get promoted anyway, even if they won the league, 14 ahead of Bo'ness, who were obviously the next eligible club to go up. And they've scored plenty of goals, I think 96, only lost 5 games. So it's always that dynamic in the playoff. One team's used to winning, the other team's not so much. So, but it's always fairly difficult to gauge the level difference because there are some really good teams in the Lowland League like East Kilbride and a few others, but there's also some not because of there's only one up, one down, and actually I would wonder if Mick Kennedy would have found it probably harder to win the West of Scotland League with Darvel, with the amount of teams, big junior clubs who are ambitious, than he maybe did with East Kilbride and winning the Lowland League. I don't know, but it would be interesting to get people's thoughts on that because you could argue that it maybe is trickier. So with that in mind, you can kind of go, well, some of those results in the Lowland League are fantastic. Others, you would expect them to. So it'll be really interesting to see what the level's like against Stranraer, who are a side that have obviously low in confidence. 1 win in 9. They did beat Steny last weekend, but it didn't mean anything in the end because Clyde did their job. And I think that was the first goals they'd scored in 4 games. So they really struggle to hit the back of the net. And when a side's that low in confidence and not scoring goals, it usually doesn't end well, but I suppose you never know.
Yeah, Stranraer struggling to score goals at the moment. In terms of East Kilbride, Lee, it's obviously a big place. Lots of people live there. And what do you see the potential of East Kilbride? There's obviously a sense, I guess, at the club that there is huge potential to tap into. Do you think that's realistic? Do you think it's a club that can really grow?
Yeah, I think it is. Having been there myself, I was there for a short spell and I was injured most of the time, but being around the kind of background of it, there's a lot of big plans, or there was a lot of big plans. I don't know what exactly is going on just now. There were talk about a new stadium being built, and the people behind the scenes are really ambitious, and I just think it's refreshing to see from a Scottish side to have that ambition and try and get their club up there. Yeah, they've had a good few seasons at it, but they've won it at a canter this year, and I would imagine they will, no disrespect to Stranraer, but I think they will win that tie, and I think they will get up into the leagues. And like you say, there's a lot of people in East Kilbride, and I think they will have the fan base, and they will start to grow the club, if anything. And I suppose we'll just need to wait and see what happens.
It does seem like a bit of a contrasting tale of the story of Scottish football at the moment, Thomas, because you've got on the one hand East Kilbride, this relatively new club, and then you've got Stranraer, a very, very old club in contrast, and from a completely different part of the Scottish geography to most of the clubs in the SPFL.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. I mean, look, it should be based on sport and merit, and the best teams should, get up as high as they can, and I totally understand that. But at the same time, it would be a shame, I think, if Stranraer, just for Scottish football generally, to drop out the league. I think they're the third oldest club that we've got. They're from a region that aren't represented much in the SPFL. You've got Queen of the South down in Dumfries and Galloway. And as someone not from the Central Belt myself, I always kind of like a good geographical spread of clubs. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, if Stranraer are not good enough, they should go down, and they will go down if that's the case. So, we can't preserve clubs based on just because you quite like them or whatever alone. But at the same time, I think if they go down, it would, it'd be great for East Kilbride, and as you say, there's huge potential there. But I think it would definitely be a bit of a sad moment for Scottish football, and we've also seen, some clubs go down and struggle to come back. But these clubs have been around for 100 years for a reason. They're run properly. They're a real community, heartbeat of their community, and yeah, it would be a bit of a sad moment for Scottish football. I think if we lose Stranraer, but not that East Kilbride would or should care about that.
It's over 2 legs. The first leg on Saturday at 3 o'clock in East Kilbride. Tomorrow night, it is the second leg of the Premiership playoff quarter-final between Partick Thistle and Airdrieonians, live on Sports Scene. It is currently poised at 2-2 after an absolute belter of a first leg on Tuesday. Lee, how do you see this one going? Do you expect it to be tight again, or who are you favouring?
I do expect it to be tight. Partick Thistle, obviously coming away from that game with the draw, I thought Airdrie were excellent. First half it was easy peasy. Second half, Airdrie dominated the game and played some really good football, had good chances, although Brian Graham could have stole it for Partick Thistle. So it's evenly poised, but I think Partick Thistle are fancy their chances at home, and they have got experience in the playoffs, obviously last year, and they've got a few other players like Scott Robinson, who's played for Livingston, myself, going up through the playoffs, so they have got that experience. But it's an interesting contest, shall we say. I think Rhys McCabe and Chris Doolan have done remarkable jobs at their clubs, so either one of them deserve to get that opportunity.
It was a fantastic first leg, Thomas. Who are you fancying for the second leg? Obviously, Partick Thistle on their home turf.
Yeah, it's too close to call, really, isn't it? Most of the games this season have been really close, apart from the other week when Thistle obviously won 4-0 at Firhill. I agree with Lee. I think obviously Partick Thistle's experience will come in handy. I think they've probably got the better players, although, as I say, Rhys McCabe's got a lot of praise for the style of play and the unit that Airdrie have become. It is seriously impressive. But I think Chris Doolan, also as Lee mentioned, deserves a big shout because the budget at Thistle is smaller than it was last season, and he's got them into playoffs again. And he's kind of tapered the game slightly because they were very attacking, scoring a lot of goals, but they were conceding a lot at the turn of the year, and their form really tailed off. But he's kind of shored that up. They're not conceding as many now. So again, it's another kind of young Scottish manager proving himself kind of adaptable and quite astute. So it's 2 young Scottish managers, 2 good teams who play good football. So may the best man team win, really.
And who will Wraith Rovers want next?
Definitely Partick Thistle, 100%, because they've played played Airdrie 5 times this season, once in the Challenge Cup, 4 times in the league, and I think they lost 4 of them, drew 1. So, I mean, Ian Murray will obviously say, we don't care, we'll take them all on, and if it is Airdrie, they will obviously do that. They'll still fancy themselves to go through over 2 legs, even with their record against Airdrie, but there must be something in the back of their head saying, we just can't get the better of Airdrie. So I think they'd take Partick Thistle all day long.
course, Ian Murray, former Airdrieonians manager as well. Also, on Saturday in the League One playoffs, Spartans take a 2-1 lead to Peterhead. Dumbarton do likewise when they travel to Stirling Albion. In the Championship playoffs, Hamilton Accies host Alloa with that game level at 2-2 after the first leg. Well, Montrose go to Inverness Cally Thistle after they drew 0-0 the other night. That's a really intriguing game now, all of a sudden, Lee Miller. A lot of pressure on Inverness and Duncan Ferguson on this one as well. How do you see it going? I mean, Inverness Caledonian Thistle are at that end of the table for reasons, obviously. Maybe not gone certainly not gone the way that they would have hoped under Duncan Ferguson. And how do you feel Montrose will be approaching that game? How do you call it?
Yeah, like you say, there's only... they're finally poised again. There's so much pressure on these games. But having, I think, a slight advantage for me would be obviously the home tie second leg. Inverness taking Montrose up there. Try and get a full house in Inverness Stadium and see how that goes. But no, it's not went according to plan for Inverness bringing Duncan Ferguson up there. He did have a really good start. I think he had a couple of wins. We thought they're going to kick on, and they've just not done that over the season. And I'm saying they'll be confident going into that, but the only thing it separates them is the fact that they've got the home leg, second leg.
I was almost going to check what age Duncan Ferguson is these days, Thomas, because you look at him and you think he could actually still do a job on the pitch, maybe even for the last 15 minutes if you wanted. And I don't think any centre half would really relish that. Probably won't come to that one. But how do you see that? I mean, it's a huge game for Inverness Cally Thistle as a club. They do not want to be in League One.
No, and financially, they're not, I don't think, in the most secure position. So to go down a division, would be a real concern. But you're joking about Duncan Ferguson playing up front. I mean, they really do lack a focal point, a player like that up top, because, I commentated on them a couple of weeks ago and Raith Rovers up in the Highlands on the Friday night, and they actually played really well. They hit the woodwork. Dabrowski for Raith Rovers was sensational, pulled off some... I don't know how they didn't score, but it's been goals that they've struggled for all season long. Billy Mackay seems to be dropping in and playing away from the goal, kind of playing almost as a 10, kind of coming, dropping deep, try to link the play, but then it means there's absolutely no one in the box. And so I wasn't actually surprised when I saw they drew 0-0 with Montrose, because they just don't score enough. And that's, again, as I mentioned it with Stranraer, and if we'll go to talk about the Premiership, St Johnstone or another one, I just think when you're not scoring goals, where do you get the confidence from? And I don't think you take as much confidence as a team at this stage of the season from clean sheets, because you need to win. You need to win games. So if you're not scoring, and so that would be a concern. But obviously at home, and I don't think they're not playing badly, which is the consolation. I think they're playing okay. They just need to find the goals from somewhere. And so if that means getting Big Dunk registered on the pitch, then they should consider it.
Not a bad idea. You think he'd still do a job, Lee? Probably not.
He probably gets involved in training and tries to ruffle up a few of his players to try and get them ready for the task in hand. But no, I think he's well past that.
Okay, and on the spot, let's talk about it. Hamilton, Alloa, Montrose or Inverness, Cally Thistle. One word answers, please. Who will be in the Championship next season?
I'll go for Cally Thistle.
Cally Thistle for you, Thomas. Lee?
I'll go for Hamilton.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Finally, in the Premiership this weekend, there's obviously a pretty big fixture between Celtic and Rangers on Saturday. That will be covered in a special Old Firm preview podcast tomorrow. So for now, let's turn our attention to the other end of the table. Ross County managed to haul themselves above St Johnstone last weekend with the 2-1 victory over Hibs. They face Motherwell in Dingwall on Saturday. And the big question has to be, Lee, are you heading up there to watch Lennon Miller play?
I'm not. I'm leaving this one out. I've got too much on. So I'll watch it from the salon whilst cutting hair. So no, I'll leave that one at the weekend.
Fair enough. And I've just got to ask you, in terms of this duel now between Ross County and St Johnstone. St Johnstone, incidentally, going to already relegated Livingston. How do you see that going? I mean, who for you has got the edge between County and St Johnstone?
I think because Ross County have still got, I think, 2 games at home, 2 out of the 3 maybe at home, and St Johnstone haven't, obviously. I think that gives them the slight edge. They're very strong at home. And like Thomas says there, I think St Johnstone struggle to score goals. I think Don Cowie's done a remarkable job. Let's not get away from that. I think he's got them playing really good football. He's got strikers that effectively can score goals just now. He's got a good few to choose from up there, in Jordan White and Simon Murray and Brophy, and these are strikers that they've got a goal scoring record, if anything. They're prolific at times, and I really like Simon Murray. I think you put him in any team and he just works his socks off and hassles defenders. And so
do you think he's been underrated? I always thought he's been a bit underrated in his career.
I think so. Yeah, he's an absolute pest. Whenever I watch him, he just doesn't stop running, anticipates things. He tries to get in around centre halves and full backs, and he's just an absolute pest. He can create a goal out of nothing, and that's, I think, when you're down near that end of the league and you're looking for wins, that's the type of player you want in your team. And I think if Craig Levein was offered him, he'd take him in a heartbeat, because he sniffs out goals out of nothing.
19 goals for Simon Murray this season, which is pretty impressive for a team threatened with relegation. And as you mentioned, Lee, or as Lee mentions there, Thomas, that is it's kind of been St Johnstone's perennial problem for the last 10 years, since, Stevie May's goal glut dried up. They have struggled for goals generally as a team. It's an interesting one, I guess, this weekend against already relegated Livingston. So you'd probably quite fancy St Johnstone, wouldn't you? Although it is away from home.
Yeah, although they've been shocking at home recently, so they might actually be better away from home, in all honesty. But yeah, look, obviously Ross County went to Livingston and lost when Livingston still had something to play for. So St Johnstone have got the fortune, if you like, of playing Livingston when they're dead and buried. That might free them up, I don't know. But either way, they can't concentrate on that. They've got to go and do the job. But yeah, 25 goals in 35 league games. I mean, it's the same as Livingston, joint lowest scores in the league. Way under a goal a game. I mean, that's tough, for a team confidence. That's tough for fans to watch, which doesn't generate a good atmosphere around the club. And as you say, Johners, it just feel like ever since they sensationally won those 2 cups, St Johnstone have kind of just been bobbing just above the surface. Obviously stayed in via the playoffs a couple of years ago. And I don't know, it's just a gut feeling that it just feels like eventually when you bob about and don't really kick on and really try and push away, eventually it just catches up with you. And I just have that feeling about St Johnstone. Obviously they play Ross County at McDermott on Wednesday, which is huge. So if they can stay in touch this weekend, then you never know, then you can kind of try and inflict some direct damage on County, and maybe the momentum swings on that, I don't know. But as Lee said, with then Ross County with another home game on the final day against Aberdeen, they've been brilliant at home, unbeaten in 6. They've beaten Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, scoring more than 1 goal in pretty much all those games, apart from against St Mirren where they drew 1-1. So yeah, it's difficult to see how St John's turn it around, but I think they need a result this weekend, and then if they can, as I say, maybe get in County's heads with a result midweek, then it may turn. But at the moment, it looks like they're going to be the team that plays either Thistle, Airdrie or Raith Rovers.
Huge match in Perth on Wednesday night as St Johnstone take on Ross County indeed. That's all we got time for. Many thanks to Lee and Thomas. Sports Scene will have the second leg of that Premiership playoff quarter-final between Partick Thistle and Airdrieonians live on the BBC Scotland channel tomorrow night at 7:30. And remember, we publish new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast every weekday morning, which means that you can get your daily dose of news, views and analysis bright and early. So make sure to follow and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
The Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby.
There's a lot to be excited about. Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are at the absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited. It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.
Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Stevie Middleton and I'm a BBC Commissioner for a load of sport podcasts. I'm lucky to do that at the BBC because I get to work with leading journalists, experienced pundits and the biggest sports stars. Together we bring you untold stories and fascinating insights straight from the players' mouths. But the best thing about doing this at the BBC is our unique access to the sporting world. What that means is that we can bring you podcasts that create a real connection to dedicated sports fans across the UK. So if you like this podcast, head over to BBC Sounds where you'll find plenty more.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
He kind of just put his arm around me and basically said that'll shut everyone up. And I really enjoyed that one.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland. Welcome to a special bonus edition of the Scottish Football Podcast with the Scotland international Ryan Porteous.
Henry knocks it down. Porteous is there! And he smashes it home! Ryan Porteous with his first international goal, and what a huge one it could be! It's Cyprus 0, Scotland 2 in Larnaca. A sensational start.
We look ahead to the Euros. We review his time at Watford so far after his move from Hibs. And we talk about what he misses most, or maybe least, about Scottish football. This podcast was recorded on Wednesday, the 1st of May.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Ryan Porteous, welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. Before we get to the boring sort of football questions, Ryan, let's get to the serious question first. You've been at Watford since January 2023, so season and a half more or less. Big question is to be, how many times have you met Elton John?
I've actually not met him yet. So he's been at plenty of games, but no, I've still not met him yet. Not had that privilege yet. But I know.
That's quite disappointing to hear, actually, because I was kind of hoping that. I mean, I presume you met the Proclaimers at some point when you were at Hibs, and then you could maybe try and be the bridge for some sort of musical collaboration there.
Yeah, to be fair, I think my mum's the most disappointed about that. She's been floating about the Players' Lounge hoping he would make an appearance, but no, not yet.
Well, hopefully still to come. Ryan, how would you sum up this season? 14th in the Championship, signing off with a 1-0 victory against Sunderland, last home match of the season. I guess you're basking in the glory of that right now, but how would you sum it up overall? It's
been really up and down. You know, when I came in to Watford, you know, we were kind of looking at a real promotion charge, and it wasn't to be last season. This season we started off really well, and then it's just been a really tough season. The Championship can sometimes do that to you, but no, it's a really enjoyable league to be in because there's games, you know, Saturday, Tuesday, and you've not got much time to reflect on, you know, disappointments. But no, it's been a tough season, but I think I've learned a lot personally. Yeah, everybody talks about the Championship being really difficult, just almost from an endurance point of view, because obviously 24 teams in the division. You have secured, obviously, safety from any relegation, obviously, off the playoffs as well, just kind of in mid-table. But yeah, 24 teams is a bit of a long slog, isn't it? Yeah, it's tough. I think you have to do a lot more work, you know, behind the scenes to try and get yourself fit for every game. You know, it's not so much training on the pitch. It's more, you know, you're kind of on the physio bed a lot, in the gym a lot, and try to keep yourself ticking over. But yeah, you can see it as a slog. But you know, as a young football player, you want to just be playing games constantly. And although the season has not, you know, went in the direction that we wanted to, there's been some highs and lows. But you know, personally, I feel like I'm, you know, in a pretty good position, and you know, I feel good. Got one more game to go away at Middlesbrough.
given all the injury problems Scotland have at the moment, are you able to get like a sick note from Steve Clarke just to kind of miss out that last game potentially?
Yeah, to be fair, I've already spoke to the manager. I think he's going to let me miss this game just to try and rest up for the Euros, given the kind of current injury crisis, if you want to call it that, within the squad.
That's fantastic. So Tom Cleverley doing the right thing for Scotland. Glad to hear it. And then wrapping yourself, presumably, Ryan, in cotton wool between now and then the matches against Gibraltar and Finland before heading off to Germany. Incredible.
Yeah. Obviously, it's it just kind of shows you what kind of man manager Tom's been since he's came in, that he really prioritises kind of what we want as players, and representing your national team on the biggest stage is definitely that. So yeah, he's been terrific since he's came in, and he's been brilliant with me as well, and he's obviously trying to do Scotland a favour as well.
Good on him. Absolutely brilliant to hear that. Just in terms of Watford, and I suppose it has been almost the kind of season and a half that you've been down there now, Ryan. What would you say has been the biggest difference that you've had to adjust to from obviously moving from Hibs to Watford, just outside London?
Yeah, I think probably the culture thing. Obviously, there's a lot of languages that get spoke here, a lot of players from kind of all over the world, and the communication between them on and off the pitch is obviously a lot different, a lot more difficult, but it's something that I've embraced as well. It's something that, it came at a right time for me. I think it was probably the next step in, kind of maturing as a person and a football player, getting involved in that kind of environment. And no, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, with the games being so thick and fast and the season being so long, that's obviously the other part that we touched on before. But yeah, the cultural side of things is probably the biggest difference. Yeah,
was there a frustration factor to end up with at Hibs, that you felt like you just needed a new challenge? I sometimes felt like that when I was watching you. You had some terrific big performances at Hibs, got into the Scotland squad. It was a bit of controversy from time to time, the spat with Steven Gerrard, obviously, a few sendings off, but overall you were a massive player for Hibernian. But was there a moment where you just felt, I need a new challenge here?
Yeah, listen, I felt that it was time for me to move on, and it was the right time for both parties. I probably would rather not do it in the kind of January window, so that you can kind of slot into a new team easily and Hibs can replace you. But it was just the way it was to happen, and I felt like Watford was the next challenge and the right move for me. So yeah, it wasn't so much of get out of Scotland as fast as possible, but I felt like it was definitely the right time for me to move. It's particularly on and off the park. So yeah.
Every time I look at the gossip column, Ryan, well, not every time, but sometimes I look at the gossip column and I see your name in it, and there's always a bit of transfer speculation around you. I feel you're 25 years of age. Obviously, Watford have got the link up, I think, with Udinese in Italy, and the summer will come, the Euros will happen, and then the silly season transfer gossip will kick into overdrive. Where do you see your future? Is it going to be at Watford next season, or how do you look at things?
To be fair, I think the last few months my priority's been to try and play well for Watford and stay fit for Scotland. So I've not really had too much time to look past that. But I'm really enjoying the way that Tom's came in. As I touched on before, his man management and the style of play. He's kind of the last breed from Sir Alex, and he's got a lot of knowledge that he can pass on. So when you've got someone like that in your corner, as your manager, then I see that as a big benefit. And I'd be obviously, you can't tell too much of the future, but I'd be more than happy to stay here and learn off Clevs.
I want to talk more about Watford and mainly Scotland, but just if I could ask you, probably slightly cheekily, what do you miss most about the Scottish game, if anything?
Not the referees, anyway.
Are they better in the Championship down south? Are they?
I think that I would say it's hard, because I did like all the referees in Scotland, but sometimes it's just it was one of them that was just, you kind of had a target on your back and you couldn't get rid of it. So coming down here was a fresh start for that. And yeah, the referees we've had some dodgy decisions, to be fair, but they don't have VAR, so I'll allow that. If you make a mistake, that's fine. I don't know if you've seen our game at Southampton. It was comical, really, but that's one of them. It's human errors, but The referees down here are good. I'd like to switch it around for a couple of months, see what you would think.
Great stuff. I was going to move seamlessly into Scotland chat now, Ryan, kind of with a bit of a Watford link, I suppose. In that, Scotland strikers, okay? You've obviously come up against all of them, and by all of them, I'm going to talk about, Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, and Lawrence Shanklin. In fact, I was looking at the stats, and actually Lyndon Dykes and Che Adams have managed to score against Watford this season, Ryan, so you've obviously seen them up close and personal. And obviously, Lawrence Shanklin, well, we all know about Lawrence Shanklin. Horrible question. Who's the best out of those three?
That's tough. They're also, I'm not going to answer that question. So, but listen. The thing is, they're all three completely different players, but they've all got one thing in common: is that they can disrupt defenders and score goals. Shea likes to link up there. He's really difficult to get a hold of, and he always, he scored a lot of goals in the Championship this season. Dykes, to be fair, he scored a lot of goals for a team that's down the bottom half of the table, and I think majority of the season he'd kind of been playing off the striker sometimes as well. So, and obviously Lawrence is a goal machine. He's always been. Yeah, unfortunately, I think all three of these strikers have scored against me, but couldn't pick just the one. But yeah, they've all been fantastic, and I'm sure the manager will have a real headache on selection.
Right, let's get excited about the Euros, Ryan. What would it mean to you to stride out in that Scotland starting 11 at the Allianz Arena on the 14th of June? It'll be an incredible occasion. That's got to send shivers up your spine, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's goosebump stuff, really. The highlights of my career, the majority of the highlights of my career have been playing for Scotland, and you just don't get that feeling with club football. And I think everyone will probably say the same. That you hear the national anthem, and I think this will be the first time in my lifetime, with fans present, that Scotland have been at a Euros. So yeah, it would mean the world, and we've all put ourselves in a fantastic position, and there's so many people that deserve to play. But hopefully I've put my name in the hat, and I'll do as much as I can to try and get into that starting 11 come June.
10 caps now. You've obviously taken to it like a duck to water. You must be quite confident of having a place in that starting 11. I know you talk about like there is real competition for places, but do you feel confident you can be in that starting 11?
Yeah, I think. Listen, I back myself. I'm a confident guy, on and off the pitch. But as you said, there's players that have had fantastic seasons, and I don't think anybody deserves to just walk into the team. But yeah, listen, if I am selected, I'm confident, and that's the back myself. That's kind of the guy I am, and but now it's more excitement more than anything of just being at the tournament, and hopefully as a squad we can not just go there to make up the numbers. We can go there and compete.
He's a man of few words most of the time, Steve Clarke, and he keeps his cards close to his chest. But he must say something to you and some of the players at times, right? What sort of advice what's the best bit of advice he's given you so far?
I think that when I came up, it wasn't so much advice, but it was more. I think when I came off after my debut, we drew 0-0 to Ukraine, and that secured that one. I think that won us the Nations League group.
Yes, they are there! One of the best goalless draws in Scottish international history, as the Scotland supporters celebrate wildly. Steve Clarke and his players can celebrate this evening because this is a massive result. It feels like a 0-0 win.
And he kind of just put his arm around me and basically said that'll shut everyone up. And I really enjoyed that one. You don't get much out of him, but when you do it, it really has that effect on you because he means it.
Yeah, how much did that mean to you?
Yeah, that was everything. He's always been someone that's showed a lot of faith in me. I've said it hundreds of times, but I can't thank him enough for he was always involving me in squads from a fairly young age, 18, 19, and he took his time putting me in, and I think that was for my benefit, and he put me in at the right time, and luckily enough it worked, and yeah, I've got a lot of I've got to thank him a lot for everything he's done for me, and hopefully we can repay some of that faith that he's shown in all of us, but particularly me come the summer.
I wanted to talk about the last friendlies, Ryan. It was going so well against the Netherlands, and then obviously it kind of ended not so good. What did you put that down to? Because, as I say, for most of that match in Amsterdam, we were going toe-to-toe with them. Or you were going toe-to-toe with them, I should say.
Yeah, listen, we had a game plan. It was slightly different to our game plans before against the top one teams. And I think it worked, for 65, 70 minutes. And I think that's probably the biggest the difference that we kind of need to make up to compete with these teams, is to do it for 90 minutes. No matter who's on the park, if we make a couple of changes, everyone's got to be on it and everyone's got to adjust fast. And it was a tough one to deal with, because I think we played so well for large periods of the game, and to come away from that with, a heavy defeat, it was really difficult to take. The lads, took it quite badly, but I do still think there was a lot of positives from, the friendlies that we had against the top teams, because I think we'll learn more out of that than we would if we played pot 3, pot 4 teams. And I think they're the stepping stones that we need to get to if we want to compete at, major tournaments.
I think I'm right in saying you missed out on the Northern Ireland match, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that's actually a feather in your cap, I suppose. But somebody said to me that, because it was obviously disappointing, I think, from a fan's point of view, obviously, the defeat to Northern Ireland at Hampden, certainly in the context of, you've all done so well for Scotland overall under Steve Clarke. And I just wonder what you put that down to. Somebody said to me, at that time of year, even subconsciously, so many of these Scotland players, they've got so many other kind of things on their minds in terms of domestic club football. You don't want to get injured. You're at the business end of the season. You, for example, you're playing with Watford in the Championship. Other players have, competing for other bits of silverware. Do you think that comes into it? I mean, we all as fans think, everybody should give 110% for Scotland whenever they play, but I guess you're all professionals and human beings, and there's a case of managing your bodies, I guess, to an extent throughout the season. Is there something in that, do you think, in terms of the lull that we saw? I guess the edge wasn't quite there against Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I think it could maybe be mental fatigue a little bit, but I definitely wouldn't put it down to anybody, down tooling or not giving 100%. But we had a fantastic start to the group. We started, like a house on fire, and we kept that going, into the Spain game. Even away from home, we got so close to taking something there, and then afterwards we've, as you said, hit a bit of a lull. But you can't become a bad team overnight. It's been relatively poor performances and some poor decision making on the pitch from everyone. So yeah, listen, we're a strong team. It's the same kind of 25, 26 players that have been in the squad for the last 4 or 5 years now, and we're all good mates. So we'll all stick together, and I do still think we're in a really good position. For the summer, we qualified maybe too early, if you want to call it that. But being Scottish, I don't think that you can ever qualify too early for a tournament. So yeah, there's still a lot of positives to take over the last 12, 18 months.
Absolutely. I just wonder as well how you go about managing your own situation, Ryan, because obviously you're getting time off from Tom Cleverley, good on him. So you're going to have basically a bit of a month free. Then obviously there's the matches against Gibraltar and Finland. And just given everything that's happening with everybody, well, not everybody, but so many injuries at the moment with the Scotland squad. I mean, I just wonder how that affects your psyche and how you kind of think about that, because, you've got this, massive, massive summer coming up, and you don't want anything to jeopardise that, obviously.
Yeah, it'll be kind of a long 3 weeks for me without any kind of team training, but I'll have a group of people here back at Watford that'll look after me during the off period and make sure that I'm fit and ready to go come the end of May. So no, listen, I've got all the tools here that I need to keep fit and keep sharp come over the next 3 weeks. So no special holidays for me.
Do you think there's also a case of managing expectations, I suppose, with the fans? Because obviously we have this match against Gibraltar. Everybody will assume we should be running up a cricket score against Gibraltar, but life's never that simple. And obviously, like I say, nobody wants to get injured ahead of the big tournament. And then Finland, that'll be the big send-off at Hampden Park before you guys head off to the Euros. I guess you just want to win both those matches massively and put in good performances, but it has got to be a sort of sense of managing expectations that if those matches aren't like the greatest games of all time, then don't panic should be the message. Or how do you view them? Or do you see them as a massive launchpad and they should be games that we are winning by cricket scores? Maybe not Finland so much, but certainly Gibraltar.
No, listen, they're two games that, given our previous friendlies, you would, against the top teams, you'd be looking at these games and going 2 wins. That's the standards that we've set for ourselves over the last year, and that's the expectation that you get when you qualify for tournaments. So I think every fan's entitled to say that these are games that we should win. They're not going to be easy games, but yeah, I think everyone will be at it because everyone will want to be in that starting 11 come the first game. So yeah, there'll be 2 tough games, but they're games that I don't think will be taken lightly, and games that we really want to win.
You said that you feel Scotland aren't far off the best teams in Europe. Realistically, Ryan, how far can we go at the Euros?
We've just got to try and take it game by game and get out the group. If we get out of a group, we'll see what happens. But the fans can dream. That's their job to dream, and it's our job to try and make that happen. We're in we're lucky. We're not lucky because we earned it, but we're fortunate to be in a position where we've had a long time to kind of look forward to this, plan everything for all the fans and families going over there, and yeah, listen, they dream all they want, and we'll be doing our best to try and make that possible.
Greece won it 20 odd years ago. Just saying, small nation, can't happen. Anyway, I won't press you on that. What are you most looking forward about it, Ryan? I mean, it's just like it must be such a sharp focus that you need to put on it, but I guess you've also got to just enjoy the moment because you just never know if these moments will ever come along in a career because. Scotland's had that barren exile, and I'm sure lots of players over the years would have thought they would have made a major tournament and haven't, but you have. So I guess it's just a case of soaking it all up.
Yeah, it's soaking it all up, but as I said, we've had a lot of time to soak that up, and I think the preparation's got to go over there and do better than we did last time. We wanted to win a game and we want to get out of the group. We have shown that we can beat top teams in Europe, but the games are going to be in 10 days really, so it's about doing that consistently over the course of 3 games. So yeah, it'll be tough, but we're all ready for it, and we've had enough time to soak up all the pat ourselves on the back, whatever, but now we've got a job to do over there.
Fantastic, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and best of luck in Germany.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Sacked in the Morning is back.
I got the ball and I put it on the spot, and it was literally the best feeling I've ever had. And believe me, I spent a lot of money on feelings in my life.
Joining Craig Levine and myself, Amy Irons, will be some of football's top managers, best characters and most colourful players as we reveal what exactly goes on inside the dugouts and dressing rooms up and down the country.
We had a lad the other week and I saw him, he was playing the first half, he was playing the opposite wing. He had a set of gloves on and short sleeves. And I thought to myself, I can't wait till next half till he comes near me.
As the manager comes in, he smashes the door open, the jacket's off, shirt sleeves are up. We're thinking, here we go. We're all nudging each other like school kids and giggling.
Sacked in the Morning. Listen now on BBC Sounds.